Hi all, my name is Lee and welcome to the channel. So it's been a while since I've made some content. That's because I've actually been away for a month. I've been on a sailing course and I've actually now passed my day skipper license. So I thought the first thing I'll do when I come back here is make something nautical. And what better, I thought, than making a sailing boat winch handle. So as you can see here, I've got a rough design. I've got some materials, so let's take a closer look. So as you can see, it's quite simple. There's a handle, the main shaft, and then this sort of spline, the connector, that goes into the winch itself. Now for the handle, it needs to spin freely. I've actually been gifted a very large block of mahogany. It's very kind of the donator. I've cut a small piece off. I'm just going to make the handle out of this mahogany just so it looks a bit nicer. Inside the handle, I'm going to have to do something to let it rotate. So I've got one of these sort of pins here and a piece of aluminium. I'm using aluminium for this build. I could use maybe stainless steel, but it's far too heavy and I don't want different metals. You don't want to use stainless steel for the spline because the winch itself is stainless steel and you don't want one to break the other. They're both of equal strength. So I'm just going to use aluminium for this build. The idea being is as this spline wears out, I can just replace it again. Regarding the spline, I've had a look online trying to find out what the design is, what the specification is. I found out it's supposed to be an 11/16 inch, which is roughly 17 millimeters, just over, double square. So I believe what they mean is it's an 8-pointed star and each point of the star has a 90-degree angle. So as you can see here. Now I'm not going to actually make these long splines because the angle here would equal 135 degrees and I don't have any milling tool that can cut that and I can't find one to buy. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to stack two squares on top of each other. You could actually only use a single square. A single square would work fine, but that's a bit too simple. I want to try something that looks a little more exciting, so I'm going to make this. I'm just going to mill out two squares from the same piece of material. Other than that, everything should be quite straightforward. So the first thing to do then is I think we will start with the wood and we'll fashion some sort of handle on the lathe with this piece of mahogany. So let's do that first. So I rounded off one end to put into the 3-jaw chuck and I've centered it the best I can, but that's fine. We don't have to worry too much about the thickness of this as long as it's a good hand grip. So all I need to do now is just get on and start cutting this out. That looks pretty good. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a slightly thicker top on it, wider top, as a top handhold when you're holding on to the winch. So I'm just going to take this down to around here to make this slightly thinner to grip onto. So that's a good thickness handle. I like that. That's about right with a nice top on it. So what I'll do is I'll just put a few features on here just to get rid of some of these sharp edges. And then we'll probably knurl this section just to give it a bit of grip. Now it doesn't need to have too much grip because obviously this is going to be rotating, so it's just enough grip to hold the handle. So let's get on and do some features now. That's looking good. What I'll do is I'll actually part this piece off right in that edge. So I'm just going to use the standard metal knurler to do the wood. Like I say, it just has to have some grip, but it doesn't need to be big or anything. It's probably more for aesthetics, so let's do this now. So the knurling feels and looks really good. It's nice and smooth, but I almost forgot. I need to put a hole in this to put the bolt through. However, what I think I'm going to do is put a sleeve in there for the bolt to run against. So I'm going to put a sleeve of aluminium, an aluminium tube in there. So I've already got a piece of aluminium that's about 15 millimeters diameter. So I'm going to create and bore a 15 millimeter hole in there to put the aluminium tube in. So here's the handle. I still need to oil it yet, but I have made a few modifications. I don't know if you can see that. I've put a wider hole in the top. So this is to do with how I'm going to attach it. So what I'm thinking is this is the going to be the arm. The handle needs to go on there. To attach it, I actually found a small ball bearing. So I've modified this nut to be able to go through and then the bearing to go on the end. So if I just build this up to give you an idea, so this will go through here, the handle will go on, and then the bearing will go inside there with a little press washer and a nut on top. And all of that will fit inside the recess. Then what I'm going to do with the recess is I've got a piece of nylon here. So I'm actually going to cut a cap that fits inside that recess to seal it all off. So that's my idea. I'm not sure if it's going to work. That's the best I could come up with. So let's just carry on, get this handle finished. I need to oil it first, and then I can start putting some of it together. Okay, so that's the first coat of oil. I'll just leave that dry and then we'll put another one on. So this is fully oiled now. It's feeling really good. I'm really pleased with how this is turning out so far. All I need to do next is just glue in this tube inside the handle. So let's just do that now. Okay, so that's the handle complete so far. I'll put the rest together once I've made the other components. So the next thing to do is to move on to the main shaft. I've already prepped a piece of aluminium. This is a foot long. So I'm just going to do some basic marks on here. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make this more lightweight, and to do that I think I'm probably going to mill out a channel in just sort of a quarter of the way down each side, and also maybe drill some holes in it just for lightweight, and it makes it a nice pattern. I won't touch anything at the ends, because at the ends obviously where the handle needs to go and the star double square drive on the other end. So let me think about a pattern I can put on here, and then we'll put it in the mill and we'll get cutting. So I've just marked out where I'm going to put some drill holes in the center here that are equal, and also the area where I need to put the holes to put the handle and the drive piece. So I'm going to do this properly on the mill, but I'd like to have guiding marks just to give me an idea that I'm in the right location and I haven't made any serious mistakes setting up. So let's jump on the mill and start drilling out some holes. So I've already found the centre. The handle shaft is actually 10.5 millimeters thick. So this side is going to be the handle. I'm going to do 10.5 millimeter hole, but also the decorative and weight saving holes I'm just going to keep at 10.5 millimeters because I've got the bit in. The only one I need to do different is how I'm going to hold the spline in at the other end. So the other end is going to be a smaller hole. So I'll do all of these 10.5 mil except for the last spline hole. I haven't worked out how I'm going to attach that yet, so I'm going to leave that. So let's just get on and drill some holes. So for a bit more weight saving and aesthetics, I'm actually going to plunge a 12 millimeter end mill into there, and I'm going to make a groove across all of these holes. So the next thing to do is just to chamfer some of the edges. So the next job is to cut out this spline. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do two cubes, one on top of each other. So I'm just going to cut that from a piece of aluminium. So this aluminium rod, I'll do 24 millimeter diameter for the main area because that is the diameter of a diagonal of a 17 millimeter square. Hopefully that makes sense. On the other end, I'm going to make that a 10 millimeter square. So for that, I'll need a 14.1 millimeter diameter there. So this is basically a cylinder, but with two different size diameters on there. Then the small end I will attach into a square collet block. And then I'll just use the milling machine to cut the square edges, rotating that each time. So that's what I think I'll do. I'll just prep this stock. I won't bother filming that, and then we'll go on the milling machine and start milling the flat edges off of this to make them square. So here's a completed piece. I put the two squares on, 17 millimeter squares. I've also put a square end piece on. I've been trying to think on how I can connect it to the main shaft. What I've decided is I'm actually going to just tap a hole straight through the end. So I've already drilled a hole out and drilled a hole through there, a slightly oversized. I don't want threads in this piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tap into that, and then I'm just going to use a screw to hold it in. I've already cut a recess out for the screw in there. I don't know if you can see that. So it should fit flush and look nice. So let's get on and tap this hole and get that finished. Well, that fits perfectly, so I'm really happy with that. So that's all the main components complete now. So we've got the handle, we've got the way that we're going to attach the handle by using a ball bearing in the top, the main shaft, lightweight with some decorative holes, and of course the double square 17mm spline for the winch. And I've also got the retaining cap head screw and a little split washer to go in there as well. But before I put all of this together, I think I'm just going to polish this main bar because there's still a few machining marks in there. I want to see if I can try and get rid of some of those and shine it up a bit. So let's do that first. So we're almost finished now, but there is one final piece that I want to make. I want to make a plastic cap to fit into the top of there to protect the bearing and nut. So to do that, I'm going to jump on the lathe. I have a piece of plastic here that I can use. So I'm going to make some sort of cap that will press in to that hole. So I think that's all the pieces. So it's time to put it together, see what it looks like. Really pleased with how this all looks. I like some of the ideas. There's a few improvements I would make, especially I'd use 2 ball bearings next time, but I only had one available and I wasn't prepared to just go and buy more of them. So let's put this together, see what it looks like. So I'm really pleased how this one turned out. Really enjoyable project. I really like the look of this and it works really well. So if you like this kind of thing, please subscribe to the channel. Let your friends know who also like this kind of workshop stuff. I'm trying to build my subscribers up. I really enjoy doing this and I want to make it worthwhile and there's enough people watching it. But this particular project has been one of my best for me because it was quite different to anything I've made before. So I'm really pleased how this turned out. Next project is probably going to be nautical related again since I'm into my sailing boats at the moment. So join me on the next one, but for now, I'll catch you later. Cheers.